Hey guys, welcome to the channel. If you loved anything dispersed camping, hiking, backpacking, go ahead, go down below, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to stay on top of all my new content coming out here in the future, go ahead and turn on those bell notifications as well. And then if you enjoy what you saw when you get to the end of the video, go ahead and drop me a like down below. I'd appreciate it. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video. We're just going to go over today some of the mistakes you may have made already. And for those of you just starting out, maybe these are some things that you can prevent yourself from doing in the future, mistakes you can avoid. So we'll go ahead and get into that. All right, before we get into the video here, going over those mistakes you might make out there on the trail, I wanted to open up a question to you guys, try and get some feedback, some responses, and see what your guys' answers are. So my question for you is, I am from Michigan. I want to know where some of your favorite places are here. If you're from Michigan, to go dispersed camping. And if you're not from Michigan, wherever you're at in the world, wherever you're at here in the United States, if you have any favorite spots where you like to go camping, go ahead and drop those down in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. So I can look into them and maybe go there in the future. All right, thanks. All right, so let's jump into this. We're going to be going over today a lot of mistakes that people make starting out with backpacking, starting out with dispersed camping. A lot of them are very common, things that I did when I started out, things that I have since corrected. We're just going to be going over, things that you can do to make your camping trip a little bit easier, a little bit better. First thing on the list is a big one that I made the first time I went out. I packed way too much stuff. And it's an easy thing to do when you start out. You do all your research, you go online, you think you got it all figured out, you go out and you buy a whole bunch of gear, stuff that you probably don't even really need, and then you go and you pack for your first trip. As you're packing, you're like, wow, this is a lot of stuff. And then you get it all loaded into your pack, you slap that baby on, and you're like, wow, this is really, really heavy. So my first trip, actually, when I went out, which I have a video on here, and I'll try to go back and find a picture of my backpack in that video, because I mean it was huge. It was massive and heavy and very, very uncomfortable for the hike out, especially since we did not actually hit a trail. We just went out and we hiked into the middle of nowhere through the forest, and it was so dense. It was a pain. It really, really was. I took a lot of things that I just didn't need, and I didn't realize it. When you're going out the first time, you're just super, super worried about having things, and you just don't know what you actually need when you go out there the first time. My first pack actually weighed, I want to say, probably between 50 and 60 pounds, which is way too much to be hiking up and down the hills, especially without a trail to walk down. But I'll kind of just jump into some things that I took that I really probably didn't even need, or that I took too much of as well. The first thing off, I packed way too much food. I packed a lot of food. I probably had, I don't know, 4 or 5 cans of chicken. I think I even took some tuna, some canned tuna. So on top of being a lot of food, they were in cans, which added even more weight into my bag. I packed like 2 or 3 things of potatoes. And then on top of that, I took a meal that I really wanted to enjoy while I was out there. I love SpaghettiOs. I took a can of SpaghettiOs. And obviously that's a full can of SpaghettiOs. It's not a very light thing to take out on the trail. So that was also very heavy. So by the time you add up all that food, I was taking just way too much weight in food. And that's, I think, a common mistake a lot of people are going to do, taking it the first time out, because you want to be prepared. You don't want to get out there and be going starving on the trail, right? You don't want to be hungry. That's the last thing you want, is to be out there and just be miserable because you have no energy, because you just didn't pack yourself enough food. So a lot of people pack way too much food. Second thing that I took way too much of out on the trail, especially the first time, was clothes. And I packed, I don't know, probably a whole extra pair of jeans, like 2 sweaters, and I think a few pairs of socks. I think I even packed extra underwear, which you really don't need to pack at all. So I ended up going out my second trip. I cut that down. I literally took the clothes I had on. That was it. I think I took like a light jacket with me. But as far as being out there, I'm only going out there for a couple days. I'm just a weekend warrior, so it's not like I need to take a bunch of clothes. And I mean, even if you were doing a longer hike, maybe take 1 light pair of backup, unless it's winter, obviously. But yeah, you definitely don't need too much extra clothing to go with you, but I way overdid it there. So I took way too many clothes. The third thing that I overpacked on was, I took a bunch of gear I just didn't need. I couldn't tell you what those things were off the top of my head, but I can tell you right now that I just took way too much stuff that I didn't even need to take with me. And that's just because I was worried about actually needing it once I got out there. I didn't want to get out there and be like, oh, I want to have this and I don't have it. So I took a lot of stuff that you don't need when you're out on the trail, when you're out camping. You just don't need to take a bunch of extra, stuff along to just add more weight to your bag. But I mean, all of us do, especially the first time out. So that's something that you might be packing way too much of, is just some extra gear. You watched a video and you saw somebody else using it and you're like, man, that's cool. That's such an awesome thing to do. And then you get out there and you just realize it's not actually something that you need while you're out there on the trail. Jumping into our second mistake that you might make when you go on the trail is that you bought a backpack, okay, and you just went out hiking with it. You packed it up, you loaded it up, you put it in your car, you went out, you went hiking, you're carrying that thing on your back, and guess what? It's not comfortable. And that's probably a mistake a lot of us have made too. You got to try that backpack out before you go out on the trail. Because let me tell you what, if you buy a cheap pack, which I did, this is my first time, I had to buy all my gear to go out because I didn't have any of it. So I went out with that cheap backpack, and let me tell you what, it was uncomfortable. It wasn't unbearable. I mean, it wasn't like god awful, but it was very, very uncomfortable. It was cutting into my traps, kind of making my arms tingle a little bit, kind of cutting off circulation, and it just was making me hurt the whole time I was out there hiking with it. So that was something I definitely made a mistake on. And it's not that you can't buy cheap gear and go do cheap gear, but it's just going to be uncomfortable. So that's one of the things I'm actually going to be looking at upgrading here soon. I have a backpack all picked out already. I just haven't ordered it and got it shipped here yet, but it's definitely going to be an improvement. One thing I think you can look for that I think is really important, that I need to look for in this next one, is that they have adjustment straps up here at the top of the straps that you pull and tighten, and it'll pull your bag forward, so that way it isn't pulling back on your shoulders, making all that weight drag back through your traps, but then it'll shift it all forward. It'll be a little more comfortable for you to carry. My first backpack did not have that. It was just a typical strap. It did have the chest strap though, and it did have the belt to go around my waist, which I thought was great, and I thought it was going to work and everything, but just without the extra adjustment, it was super uncomfortable. It was really pulling on my shoulders. So that was definitely one thing that I thought was very uncomfortable, and something that you should really look into, especially going out for your first time. And maybe something that you people have been doing a couple times and you wonder, why it's hurting, look into a backpack with those extra straps. It might be a little more comfortable for you. All right, mistake number 3 that a lot of people make, kind of like the backpack, your shoes, your footwear, your trail runners or your boots, whatever you're wearing out on the trail. Make sure you put that through the ringer before you go out there. I did not do this. I bought a pair of hiking boots. I never really even heard of trail runners when I went out the first time, so I didn't even look into those. But I got boots the first time I went out, and I got lucky. My boots were actually really pretty comfortable. I mean, they were just a cheap pair of boots, nothing special, but they did okay. I didn't get any blisters or anything. I thought they were comfortable. I didn't think they were too heavy or anything. But looking back, hindsight, I think I got lucky, because I've heard horror stories about going out on the trail without testing your footwear before you go out there, and you get out there and you're hiking miles and miles, and before you know it, you got blisters, and guess what? You got to hike back in those same uncomfortable boots with those blisters. So it's definitely something to look into before you go out and you start hiking. Buy your boots, get them there, put them on, go for a couple walks in those guys, test them out, make sure they're not rubbing anywhere, make sure that they're comfortable, make sure they're not too heavy for you, because you're going to be hiking miles and miles. You don't want to get out there and it just be uncomfortable and hard for you to do. So definitely try your shoes before you go. All right, to wrap things up, those were just a few mistakes that you might make out there on the trail. I hope it helps you. I hope it helps prevent some of those things for you when you go out there, to make your trip a little bit better and a little bit easier. If you've made any of these mistakes, don't feel bad. That's what mistakes are for. You make the mistake, you learn from it, you get better, you get more efficient, so your hike the next time is better and you enjoy it a little bit better too. I hope you guys enjoyed the video as much as I did. It's my first real sit down short video that I'm making with some information to share with you guys. So if you liked it and you enjoyed the video, go ahead, drop down below, hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next video.